everybody. My name is Chyanne Phillips, and before I tell you about what I'm going to talk to you about today, by a show of hands, how many of you have been in a school band? How many of you can distinguish instruments that are in different groups based on characteristics or families? Okay, so I myself have never participated in the school band. I can distinguish only a few instruments based off of their looks, but I can barely name them. Though this is true, I've always had an infatuation with the brass section. Loud, powerful horns that assert power and demand of attention, yet soft and serene depending on the player and depending on the song. The brass family alone is such a diverse group of instruments that is much more than a group of horns that sound the same. Today I'm going to talk to you about the brass family, its history, its members, and give you a little insight on one of the most important members of the brass family. Brass instruments are named after being composed of the brass material. The instruments had to be blown into, and as time went on, buttons were added to alter the sounds and tones in 1815. The horn and trumpet are known to be the oldest brass instruments. Traditionally, these early age horns are constructed from animal parts. Brass instruments were used for ceremonial purposes because of their loud and declaring tone. Brass instruments were not introduced to orchestras until the early 1700s. It was an important addition because brass instruments added a sense of blending to the other sounds. The most recognized brass instruments include the alto horn, baritone horn, bugle, contrabass bugle, cornet, euphonium, bugle horn, and the list goes on and on. Those are just a few, as there are countless other brass instruments. The tuba, known as the grandfather of the brass family, is the largest instrument in the brass section. It was invented to fill in the space desired for a sound that would sustain the bottom end. The first form of the tuba was invented in 1590 in France. Named the serpent, this instrument was made from wood and leather covering. The well-known metal instrument did not have metal parts and was complemented by wood, bones, and ivory. As a true work in progress, the serpent did not yet have any buttons, just holes to blow in. Adjustments were made so the serpent could have buttons that would be pressed to adjust the tone. The serpent's main purpose was to accompany religious music of the 12th century. This was an important time for Western music because the earliest known composers, Leonin and Periton, was known at this time. Other composers, including Beethoven and Mendelssohn, were alive during the time of the serpent and actively used it to complement their works. Moving forward to about 200 or so years, an instrument maker in Ireland designed the cophlocide, also known as the serpent cover. The opposite lasted only about 100 years. The quote, first tuba was patented first in 1835 by a German instrument builder. It was adopted by British brass bands. A few years later, an instrument manufacturer by the name of Adolf Sax began to make tubas of the type that the German builder had. He was in Paris. Sax planned on integrating brass winds together with his work. Later on, P.J. Blakely invented the compensating value system in 1878 to help extend the overall range of the tuba. What is known to be the most recent tuba to date is the Wagner tuba. The Wagner tuba, designed by Richard Wagner in 1835, is rather unknown. The Wagner tuba was modeled after the ancient bronze Nordic horn. The instrument's intention was to be the merging point between a horn and a trombone. The Wagner tuba helps blend the sounds of brass instruments for a cleaner, more smooth sound. Conductor Roger Bobo is known to be a brass legend. Though he is a renowned tuba player. He teaches in almost all brass instruments and has also taught around the world. He was a part of the Los Angeles Philharmonic for 25 years and gained close relationships with students and world-class conductors. Roger Bobo currently lives in Japan and is a coach for international competition. In conclusion, the brass family has went through years of renovations and contains a diverse group of hundreds of different instruments. The largest brass instrument, the tuba, has in itself went through hundreds of years of changes to enhance its beauty and sound. A famous tuba player, Roger Bobo, helps enforce the beauty of the tuba and teaches all over the world to show the uniqueness of music.